I tore through every drawer in my bedroom, my hands shaking as I searched. Margaret's gold locket necklace was gone. My daughter Brenda arrived for dinner, and when I asked her about it, she said the words that shattered me. "I sold it 3 days ago, Dad. I needed $20,000 for my new apartment downtown." It was just sitting there. That necklace was all I had left of my wife, my Margaret, after 42 years together. She wore it on our wedding day. Now it was gone. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Margaret wearing that necklace, the way the gold caught the light when she smiled. She had died 2 years ago, after a brutal fight with cancer, and that locket had become my anchor. Some mornings, I would just hold it, running my thumb over the engraved flowers on the front, and feel close to her again. Brenda did not understand. She could not understand. When I tried to explain how much it meant to me, she just rolled her eyes and said, "Mom's gone. Dad, you need to move on. It's just jewelry." But it was not just jewelry. It was Margaret's heartbeat, her warmth, her presence in my empty house. I was at Bernie's Pawn and Jewelry on 5th Street when the doors opened at 9 the next morning. The bell chimed as I walked in, and Bernie looked up from behind the counter. He was a stocky man in his mid-50s with thinning gray hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. "Heath?" he said, surprised. I had not seen Bernie in years, not since I fixed the pipes in his shop back when I was still running my plumbing business full-time. "What brings you in?" "My daughter sold you a gold locket," I said, my voice tight. 3 days ago. I need it back." Bernie's face changed. Something flickered in his eyes, nervous, almost guilty. He glanced toward the back room, then back at me. "Heath, you better come with me." My heart pounded as I followed him past the display cases filled with watches, rings, and electronics. The back room smelled like metal polish and old paper. Bernie closed the door behind us and turned to face me. "I was going to call you," he said. "Something happened when I was examining the locket for appraisal." He walked to a small safe in the corner, worked the combination, and pulled out a wooden box. Inside was Margaret's necklace, but it lay open in a way I had never seen before. The locket had split apart, revealing a hidden compartment I never knew existed. "It opens," Bernie said quietly, and there was something inside. My hands trembled as I reached for the box. Inside, the secret compartment were 5 rough, uncut stones that caught the light with an inner fire. Even I could tell they were diamonds. Real diamonds. Valuable diamonds. "And this," Bernie said, holding out a small piece of paper that had been folded tight. I unfolded it with shaking fingers. Margaret's handwriting, unmistakable even after all this time, looped across the page in blue ink. "For emergencies only. Tell no one. Protect our family." The initial M was signed at the bottom. I felt the room spin. 42 years, I whispered. 42 years, and I never knew this opened. I never knew there was anything inside. Bernie scratched the back of his neck, uncomfortable. "Heath, these diamonds? They're not registered. They could be conflict diamonds, smuggled goods. I'm legally obligated to report this kind of thing. But you're a good man, and I figured you deserve a chance to figure out what's going on before I involve the authorities." "How long do I have?" 48 hours, Bernie said. "After that, I have to make the call. I could lose my license if I do not." I stared at the note again, at Margaret's careful handwriting. What emergencies? What was she protecting us from? My wife had been an elementary school teacher. She taught second graders how to read and tie their shoes. Where in God's name did she get smuggled diamonds? "Talk to your daughter," Bernie suggested. "Maybe your wife told her something." I nodded, unable to speak. Bernie carefully placed the locket back in the box and put it in the safe. The diamonds stayed there, hidden away, a secret within a secret, within a secret. As I drove home, my mind raced through 42 years of memories, searching for clues I had missed. Margaret had always been careful with money, but we lived simply. She never wore expensive jewelry except for that locket and her wedding ring. She never talked about her family much. Her parents had died when she was young, she always said, and she was an only child. But now I wondered what else she had lied about. I called Brenda as soon as I got home. "We need to talk. Now." "Dad, I'm busy with the move," she started. "Now, Brenda." Something in my tone must have convinced her, because an hour later she was standing in my living room, arms crossed defensively. She looked so much like her mother, the same dark hair, the same stubborn set to her jaw. But where Margaret had been warm and soft, Brenda had grown cold and sharp over the years. I showed her the photos on my phone, pictures Bernie had let me take of the diamonds and Margaret's note. Brenda's face went completely white. The color drained so fast I thought she might faint. She sat down hard on the sofa, staring at the screen. You knew, I said. It was not a question. She would not meet my eyes. Mom made me promise. Made you promise what? Not to tell you. Ever. She said you could never know because it would destroy you, that you would not understand. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had felt since Margaret's death. My own daughter, conspiring with my wife to keep secrets from me. Understand what, Brenda? What could be so terrible that my own wife could not trust me with the truth? Brenda took a shaky breath. Mom had a brother. His name was Curtis. The room seemed to tilt. Margaret had told me she was an only child. She had no family, she always said. It was one of the things that had drawn us together, both of us alone in the world, when we met at that church social 50 years ago. Curtis was involved in some kind of import-export business, Brenda continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Mom never gave me all the details, but from what she said, it was not legal. The diamonds were her inheritance from his dealings. She cut off contact with Curtis 30 years ago, but she kept the diamonds hidden as insurance for the family. Insurance against what? Against him, I think. Mom said Curtis was dangerous. She said if anything ever happened, the diamonds would protect us. She told me all this 6 months before she died. She made me swear I would get them after she was gone, that I would keep them safe, that I would never, ever tell you. Why? I demanded. Why could she not tell me? Because she was ashamed, Brenda said, finally looking at me. She said you were the only truly good thing in her life, the only honest thing. She said if you knew about her past, about Curtis, about where the diamonds came from, it would break you. She wanted to protect you from the truth. I sank into my chair, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. 42 years. Every morning, every night, every moment we shared, all built on a foundation of lies. I thought I knew my wife. I thought we told each other everything. Where is Curtis now? I asked. Prison, Brenda said. Somewhere in California, I think. That's all Mom told me. Then we should be safe, I said. If he is locked up? Brenda's expression crumpled. Dad, there's more. Of course there was. The hits just kept coming. I did not sell the necklace just for the apartment, she said. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. I owe $70,000 to some very bad people. Loan sharks. They gave me 2 weeks to pay, and that deadline is almost up. They said if I do not have the money, there will be consequences. I stared at my daughter, seeing a stranger. $70,000? Brenda, what did you do? I made some bad investments. Got in over my head with the wrong people. I thought if I could get those diamonds, I could pay off the debt and start over. I have been looking for them for months, Dad. I tore apart Mom's things when you were not home, searched every inch of this house. I thought the compartment was empty when I sold the necklace. I did not know the diamonds were still inside. So you were going to steal them, I said flatly. You were going to take what your mother left and use it without telling me. She had the decency to look ashamed. I was desperate. And now? Now I'm more desperate. The loan sharks are not going to wait. They have been calling, showing up at my apartment. Last week, one of them grabbed my arm so hard he left bruises. Dad, I'm scared. I need those diamonds. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw how thin she had become, how dark the circles under her eyes were. She was terrified, and despite everything, she was still my little girl. But I also saw Margaret in her. The lies, the secrets, the willingness to do whatever it took to survive. How do we get them back from Bernie? Brenda asked. I do not know, I said. But we only have 48 hours before he goes to the police. And if he does, we will all be in trouble. Those diamonds are illegal, Brenda. Possessing them could land us in prison. We sat in silence, the weight of Margaret's secrets crushing both of us. I need to know more about Curtis, I finally said. I need to understand what we are dealing with. I made a call to my old friend Frank, a retired police detective who owed me a favor from years back when I had fixed his burst water heater in the middle of winter for free. Frank had contacts, ways of finding information that regular people could not access. While we waited for Frank to get back to me, Brenda paced my living room like a caged animal. Every few minutes, she would check her phone, her face growing more anxious. They are going to call soon, she said. They always call around 8 at night to remind me how much time I have left. Who are these people, Brenda? She shook her head. I do not know their real names. They just call themselves the collection agency. But they are connected, Dad. They know people, have reach. This is not some small-time operation. My phone rang. Frank. Heath, he said without preamble. You want to tell me why you are asking about Curtis Thompson? Just answer the question, Frank. Is he in prison? Was in prison, San Quentin. Served 23 years for diamond smuggling and racketeering. But Heath, he got out 8 months ago. The floor dropped out from under me. 8 months ago. 2 months before Margaret died. Frank, I said carefully. Do you know where he is now? That's the thing, Frank said. He is supposed to be in a halfway house in Sacramento, checking in regularly with his parole officer. But according to my contact, he has not missed a single check-in. He is following all the rules, staying clean, at least on paper. I thanked Frank and hung up, my mind spinning. Brenda had stopped pacing and was staring at me. He is out, I said. Before I could say more, there was a knock at my front door. 3 sharp raps, confident and demanding. Brenda's eyes went wide with fear. That's them, she whispered. The loan sharks. I walked to the door, my heart hammering, and opened it. The man standing on my porch was not a loan shark. He was older, maybe 67 or 68, with iron gray hair slicked back from a hard face. Prison tattoos crawled up his neck, and his eyes, pale blue and cold, locked onto mine with an intensity that made me step back. "Hello, Heath," he said. His voice was rough, like gravel scraping over concrete. "I'm Curtis Thompson, Margaret's brother, and I believe you have something that belongs to me." Curtis pushed past me into my house, without waiting for an invitation. He moved like a man used to taking what he wanted, used to people getting out of his way. Behind him, I saw a car idling at the curb, 2 shapes visible in the front seats. Backup, I realized. He had not come alone. Brenda had gone completely still on the sofa, her face frozen in shock. Curtis looked around my living room, taking in the modest furniture, the family photos on the walls, the life Margaret and I had built together. His lip curled slightly, disdainful. "So, this is what Margaret ran away to," he said. "A plumber and a nobody life in Portland, Oregon." "Get out of my house," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Curtis turned those cold eyes on me. "We need to talk, Heath. About my sister, about what she took from me, and about those 5 diamonds currently sitting in Bernie's pawn shop." My blood ran cold. "How did you know about that?" Curtis smiled, showing too many teeth. "I have been watching your family since I got out 8 months ago. I knew Margaret had those diamonds hidden somewhere. Knew she would pass them on before she died. I figured she would give them to Brenda here." He nodded toward my daughter. "Or maybe tell you about them. But Margaret was clever. I will give her that. She hid them well." "You were watching Mom before she died?" Brenda whispered, horrified. "Of course I was," Curtis said. "She knew I was out. I made sure she knew. Called her from a payphone outside her hospital room the week before she passed. Told her I was coming for what was mine." She laughed at me. "Can you believe that? Dying of cancer, and she still had the nerve to laugh at me." I felt sick. Margaret's last days had been filled with fear, knowing this monster was circling, waiting, and she had never told me. She had faced it alone, trying to protect me even as she was dying. "The diamonds are not yours," I said. "Margaret left them for our family. Margaret stole them from me." Curtis shot back, his voice hard. 30 years ago, when she decided she was too good for the family business, she took those diamonds as her severance pay and disappeared. I went to prison. She lived free. Now she is dead, and I want what is mine." "What family business?" I demanded. "What was Margaret involved in?" Curtis walked to Margaret's picture on the mantel, a photo from our 20th anniversary. She looked so happy, so innocent. He picked it up, studying her face. "Margaret was the best runner we ever had," he said. "Smart, clean-cut, pretty. Nobody ever suspected a sweet young woman with a teacher's degree of smuggling conflict diamonds across international borders. She worked for me for 5 years, made us both a lot of money. Then she met you." He put the picture down carelessly, face down on the mantel. "She told me she wanted out, wanted to go straight, live a normal life. I told her fine, but she owed me. She had to do one last job, a big one. Instead, she took 5 of the best diamonds from my stash and ran. Changed her name, moved across the country, pretended to be an orphan with no family. She erased Curtis Thompson from her life completely." "That is not true," I said. But my voice sounded weak, even to my own ears. "Ask her yourself," Curtis said, gesturing at the photo. "Oh wait, you cannot. Because she lied to you for 42 years and took her secrets to the grave." Brenda stood up, shaking. "What do you want?" "What I have always wanted," Curtis said. "My diamonds." "You have 48 hours before Bernie goes to the police. Is that right?" He looked at me. "I know that too." Bernie's security cameras caught you both on tape. You examining the merchandise, having your little heart-to-heart in the back room. Bernie is a cautious man, always has been. He backs up his footage to the cloud. How do you know that, I asked. Because I've been planning this for months, Curtis said. Bernie is predictable. So are you, Heath. You are a good man, honest, law-abiding. That makes you easy to manipulate. I knew when you found those diamonds, you would panic. I knew you would have no idea what to do. And I knew you would be backed into a corner. This is insane, I said. The diamonds are illegal. If I give them to you, I am committing a crime. If I do not, I am committing a crime. There is no good option here. Curtis shrugged. Life is complicated. But here is what is going to happen. You are going to get those diamonds from Bernie. I do not care how you do it. Pay him. Convince him. Steal them back if you have to. Then you are going to give them to me. And if I refuse? Curtis's smile disappeared. Then I go to the police myself and tell them everything. Margaret's criminal past, her real identity, the years she spent smuggling diamonds. I have proof, Heath. Documents, photos, records, I kept from the old days. I will destroy Margaret's reputation, her memory, everything you believed about her. Your church friends, your neighbors, everyone in this town will know she was a criminal. And you and Brenda will be investigated as accessories. Even if you did not know about her past, the law does not care. You possessed illegal diamonds. You will be charged. You are threatening us, Brenda said. I am giving you a choice, Curtis corrected. Give me what is mine, and I disappear forever. You never see me again, or refuse, and watch everything burn down around you. We need time to think, I said desperately. You have until tomorrow night, Curtis said. 8 o'clock. I will call you then for your answer. And Heath, do not even think about going to the police yourself. You are already in too deep. One phone call from me, and your life is over. He walked to the door, then paused and looked back at Brenda. By the way, those loan sharks you are so worried about? They do not exist. There is no debt, no collection agency, no men threatening you. I had my people make those calls, rough you up a bit, make you desperate. I needed you scared enough to sell that necklace, to start the ball rolling. Congratulations, you played your part perfectly. Brenda's face went ashen. You, she breathed. This whole time, it was you. Curtis laughed. Family reunion, he said mockingly, and walked out into the night. I watched through the window as he got into the car, and it drove away. Taillights disappearing down my quiet street. Brenda collapsed back onto the sofa, sobbing. I stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. Everything was a lie. The loan sharks, Brenda's desperation. It was all Curtis, manipulating us from the shadows, pushing us toward this moment. Dad, what are we going to do? Brenda asked through her tears. I did not have an answer. We were trapped in a nightmare of Margaret's making, caught between a criminal and the law, with no good way out. And the clock was ticking. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my living room until dawn, turning over every possibility in my mind. By morning, I had a plan. It was risky, maybe foolish, but it was the only option I could see. I would go to Bernie, explain everything, and ask him to hold off on calling the police for one more day. Then I would take the diamonds and arrange a meeting with Curtis in a public place, somewhere with witnesses. I would record the conversation, get him to admit to Margaret's crimes and his own threats. Then I would go to the police with everything, let them sort it out. Curtis would go back to prison for violating parole, and maybe, just maybe, I could keep myself and Brenda out of jail. It was not a great plan, but it was something. I called Brenda at 7 in the morning. She sounded like she had not slept either. I explained what I was thinking. She agreed to meet me at my house at 10 so we could go to Bernie's together. But at 9:30, my phone rang. It was Bernie, and his voice was panicked. Heath, you need to get down here right now. Something happened. I drove to 5th Street with a sense of dread growing in my chest. When I pulled up to Bernie's pawn and jewelry, there were police cars everywhere, their lights flashing red and blue. The shop's front window had been shattered. Crime scene tape stretched across the entrance. I parked and ran toward the shop, but a uniformed officer stopped me. This is a crime scene, sir. You cannot go in there. Bernie called me, I said. I need to see him. Is he okay? The officer looked at me carefully. What is your name, sir? Heath Collins. The officer spoke into his radio, then nodded toward a police car where Bernie sat in the back seat, a white bandage wrapped around his head. Blood had soaked through on one side. Bernie saw me and tried to stand, but a detective put a hand on his shoulder, keeping him seated. The detective walked over to me, a tall woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "Mr. Collins? I'm Detective Lisa Holbrook. Bernie here says you were interested in some items he was holding for appraisal." "The diamonds," I said. "What happened?" "The shop was robbed last night," Detective Holbrook said, watching my reaction carefully. 3 men, armed. They came in through the back door around 2 in the morning. Bernie lives above the shop. He heard noises and came downstairs to investigate. One of the robbers hit him with a gun. He is lucky to be alive. My chest tightened. Did they get the diamonds? Among other things, yes. They cleaned out the safe, took cash, expensive watches, jewelry. But Bernie here mentioned that you had been very interested in a particular gold locket with 5 uncut diamonds inside. I swallowed hard. My late wife's necklace. My daughter sold it to Bernie, and I was trying to get it back. "And you knew about the diamonds?" "I found out yesterday," Bernie told me. Detective Holbrook pulled out a notepad. "I am going to need you to come down to the station, Mr. Collins. We have some questions." "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet," she said. "But you are a person of interest. You visited Bernie twice in 2 days. Your fingerprints are all over the back room in the safe. And now, less than 24 hours after you discovered valuable illegal diamonds in your possession, those diamonds have been stolen in a violent robbery. You can see how that looks." "I did not do this," I said. But even to my own ears, I sounded guilty. At the police station, they put me in a small interview room and made me wait for an hour. When Detective Holbrook finally came in, she had a folder full of papers and a grim expression. "Mr. Collins," she said, "I am going to be straight with you. This looks bad. You have motive, you have access, you have knowledge of the diamonds. Bernie is in the hospital with a serious concussion. If he dies, this becomes a murder investigation." "Bernie is going to die?" I asked, horrified. "He has swelling in his brain. The doctors are not sure yet." She leaned forward. "Tell me the truth, Heath. What happened last night?" So I told her everything. About Margaret, about Curtis Thompson, about the threats and the manipulation, about Brenda and the fake loan sharks, about how Curtis had been watching us for months. Detective Holbrook listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "That is quite a story," she said. "The problem is, I cannot verify any of it. You say Curtis Thompson came to your house. Any witnesses?" "Just my daughter. The daughter who sold the necklace in the first place. The daughter who, according to you, was desperate for money and being threatened by people who do not actually exist." "I see how it sounds," I said. "But it is the truth." "Curtis Thompson has an alibi for last night," Detective Holbrook said. "He checked in at his halfway house in Sacramento at 9 p.m., had a drug test, and was verified present by staff throughout the night. He could not have robbed Bernie's shop." "Then he had accomplices do it," I said desperately. "That is how he operates. He stays clean while other people do his dirty work." "Maybe," Detective Holbrook said. "Or maybe you are making up a convenient story to cover your own involvement." She showed me security footage from Bernie's shop. 3 men in masks and gloves, moving efficiently through the store, going straight to the safe. They knew exactly what they were looking for. The whole robbery took less than 7 minutes. "Professional job," Detective Holbrook said, "not some random smash and grab." These men knew the layout, knew about the safe, knew Bernie lived upstairs. They were prepared. "Because Curtis told them," I said. "He has been planning this." "We will investigate Mr. Thompson, of course," the detective said. "But right now, Mr. Collins, you are my primary suspect. We are holding you for 48 hours while we gather evidence." "I need to call my daughter," I said. "You can make one call." I called Brenda's cell phone. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. A cold fear started spreading through my chest. Detective Holbrook saw my expression. "Problem? My daughter is not answering. We can send an officer to check on her, if you give us her address." I gave them the address of Brenda's new apartment. 2 hours later, an officer came back with news. The apartment was empty. Brenda had cleared out. A neighbor reported seeing her leave early that morning with an older man and 2 rough-looking guys, loading boxes into a van. "She left me," I said, numb. She knew about the robbery. She was part of it. Detective Holbrook showed me one more thing. Bank records. Someone had wired $25,000 to Brenda's account from an offshore account the morning after the robbery. Brenda had withdrawn it all in cash that afternoon and closed the account. Your daughter betrayed you, Mr. Collins, Detective Holbrook said quietly. She and Curtis Thompson planned this together. They used you. I sat in that interview room, handcuffed to the table, and felt my entire world crumble. My wife had lied to me for 42 years. My daughter had conspired with a criminal to frame me for robbery, and I was facing prison time for crimes I did not commit. I had lost everything. They released me after 48 hours. There was not enough evidence to charge me, Detective Holbrook explained. But I was not to leave Portland. I was still under investigation. Bernie had survived, but he had permanent brain damage and could not clearly remember the robbery or identify his attackers. Without his testimony, their case against me was weak. But my life was destroyed anyway. The local newspaper ran a story. Retired plumber named person of interest in violent pawnshop robbery. My name, my address, my photo. The article mentioned the illegal diamonds, Margaret's possible connection to diamond smuggling, Brenda's disappearance. They did not say I was guilty, but they did not have to. In a town like Portland, being named a person of interest was enough. My neighbors stopped making eye contact when I got my mail. At church the following Sunday, people moved away when I sat down in my usual pew. By Monday, 3 of my regular plumbing clients had called to cancel upcoming jobs. By Wednesday, 5 more. My phone stopped ringing entirely by the end of the week. I hired a lawyer, Dorothy Walsh, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 50s with a reputation for being tough and expensive. She listened to my story in her office, overlooking the Willamette River, her expression growing more grave with each detail. Heath, she said when I finished, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that you might be charged. The circumstantial evidence is strong. You have motive, opportunity, and connection to the stolen goods. Your daughter has disappeared. Your story involves a dead wife's secret criminal past and a vengeful brother, neither of which can be easily proven. I did not do this, I said. I believe you, Dorothy said. But belief does not win cases. Evidence does. And right now, the evidence is not in your favor. What can we do? We cooperate fully with the investigation. We hope they find Brenda and Curtis. We pray Bernie regains enough memory to testify that you were not involved. And we prepare for trial, just in case. The trial would cost me $50,000, she estimated. I would have to mortgage my house, sell everything I owned, and even then, I might lose. I walked out of Dorothy's office feeling more hopeless than I had ever felt in my life. Losing Margaret to cancer had nearly broken me, but this was worse. This was losing my wife's memory, my daughter, my reputation, my future, everything, all at once. Over the next 2 weeks, my life became a nightmare. Detective Holbrook brought me in for 3 more interviews, each time digging deeper, trying to find cracks in my story. She showed me more evidence, more connections between Brenda and Curtis. They had been in contact for months, she told me. Phone records showed dozens of calls between Brenda's number and a burner phone that was tracked to locations near Curtis's halfway house. Text messages that had been deleted but recovered by the forensics team. Plans, discussions, coordination. Your daughter was never in debt, Mr. Collins, Detective Holbrook said. There was no collection agency, no loan sharks, no threats. We investigated every name she gave you. They do not exist. Brenda was working with Curtis from the beginning. They used your love for your wife's memory against you. They knew you would do anything to get that necklace back, would panic when you found the diamonds, would become a perfect scapegoat when they stole them. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Brenda was my daughter. I had raised her, loved her, sacrificed for her. When Margaret was sick, Brenda and I had stayed by her bedside, holding her hands, crying together. Or so I thought. Now I wondered if even that had been an act. Had Brenda been thinking about those diamonds even as her mother lay dying? Detective Holbrook had more. She showed me surveillance footage from around Portland, images captured in the weeks before the robbery. Curtis, meeting with known criminals. Brenda at a coffee shop, sliding an envelope across the table to one of the men who would later rob Bernie's shop. Money changing hands. Plans being laid. They were not even careful, Detective Holbrook said. They thought they were clever, but they left a trail. We are building a case against them, Mr. Collins. But until we find them, you remain a suspect. Where are they? I asked. Gone, she said. Curtis violated his parole the moment he left Sacramento without permission. There is a warrant for his arrest. Brenda is wanted for questioning as a witness and possible accomplice. But they have disappeared. Offshore money, false identities, help from Curtis's old criminal contacts. They could be anywhere. My bank account was frozen as part of the investigation. I could not pay Dorothy Walsh for her continued services. She apologized, said she had to prioritize paying clients, wished me luck. I was alone again. No lawyer, no money, no hope. I stopped going to church. I stopped answering my phone. I sat in my empty house, surrounded by Margaret's things, and tried to understand how my life had fallen apart so completely. One night, drunk on cheap whiskey, I pulled out all of Margaret's photo albums and spread them across my living room floor. Our wedding day. Brenda's birth. Family vacations to the coast. Christmas mornings. Birthdays. 42 years of memories, all tainted now by lies. I found Margaret's journals, the ones she had kept before we met. I had never read them before, had respected her privacy, even after her death. But now, desperate for answers, I opened them. The early entries were innocent enough. A young woman's thoughts about college, about her teaching degree, about wanting to make a difference. But then, around her mid-20s, the entries changed. She started mentioning someone named C. My brother C thinks I should join the business. C says I have a gift for this. C took me across the border today. I was so scared, but it went perfectly. Nobody suspected anything. I read through 5 journals, watching Margaret descend into the criminal world, watching her become someone I did not recognize. She wrote about the money, the thrill, the danger. She wrote about Curtis, how he was brilliant but ruthless, how she admired him but feared him too. And then, near the end of the 5th journal, she wrote about meeting me. There is a man at church, a plumber named Heath. He is so kind, so genuine. He makes me want to be better. He makes me believe I could have a normal life. I cried reading those words, because even then, even in that moment of supposed honesty, she was lying. She did not tell me the truth. She let me fall in love with a fiction, with a version of herself that did not exist. The last journal entry was dated 2 weeks before our wedding. I am taking 5 diamonds from C's collection. It is my insurance, my escape money. If he ever comes after me, if my past ever catches up, I will have something to bargain with, something to protect Heath and our future children. C does not know. He will be furious when he finds out, but by then, I will be gone. I will be Mrs. Heath Collins, living a quiet life, far away from all of this. I will never tell Heath. He can never know. This is my burden to carry alone. I closed the journal and sat in the darkness, feeling more betrayed than I had thought possible. Margaret had loved me, in her way, but she had also used me, had hidden behind my honesty and simplicity, had let me be her shield against her past. And now that past had destroyed me. I was at my lowest point. No money, no job, no reputation, facing possible prison time for crimes my own daughter and wife's brother had committed. I had nothing left to fight with. Nothing left to hope for. I decided that if they offered a plea deal, I would take it. 5 years, 7 years, whatever. I would admit to being an accessory, would say I knew about the diamonds and helped plan the robbery. It would be a lie, but at least it would be over. At least I could stop fighting. I called the public defender's office and made an appointment. But that night, unable to sleep, I went back through Margaret's belongings one more time. Not looking for anything in particular, just torturing myself with memories. That is when I found the jewelry box, the old wooden one with the carved roses where Margaret had kept her locket. I had looked through it a dozen times over the past 2 years, but I had never noticed that the bottom felt too shallow compared to the outside depth. With shaking hands, I pried at the silk lining. It came away easily, revealing a false bottom. Hidden beneath it was a sealed envelope with my name written across the front in Margaret's handwriting. The envelope was thick. Inside was a letter, dated 1 week before Margaret died, and a small brass key. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped them both. I sat on my bedroom floor and read Margaret's final letter to me. The words blurred through my tears, but I forced myself to read every line. My dearest Heath, if you are reading this, then Curtis has found you. I knew he would come eventually. I have known for 42 years that this day would arrive, and I am so sorry that I will not be there to face it with you. You deserve to know the truth. All of it. I was not an only child. I had a brother, Curtis Thompson, 5 years older than me. After our parents died when I was 16, Curtis became my guardian. He was already involved in diamond smuggling by then, working for a network that moved conflict diamonds from Africa through Canada and into the United States. When I turned 21, he recruited me into the operation. I was good at it, Heath. That is the terrible truth. I was smart, clean-cut, and nobody ever suspected the young elementary school teacher of carrying $50,000 worth of illegal diamonds in her purse across the border. I worked for Curtis for 5 years, and I made us both very wealthy. But then I met you. You were everything I was not. Honest, kind, genuine, decent. You made me want to be better. You made me believe I could escape my past and build something real, something good. When I told Curtis I wanted out, he refused. He said I knew too much, that I could never leave. We fought. He threatened me. So I took 5 diamonds from his collection, the 5 you found in the locket, and I ran. I changed my last name from Thompson to Davis, moved to Portland, and started over. I knew Curtis would never forgive me. I knew he would come for me eventually. But then he was arrested 6 months after I left, charged with diamond smuggling and racketeering. He was sentenced to 25 years. I thought I was safe. I built a life with you, Heath. We got married. We had Brenda. I became the person I always wanted to be. For 42 years, I have lived honestly. I have been a good wife to you, I hope. I have tried to be worthy of your love. But I never stopped watching over my shoulder. I never stopped preparing for the day Curtis would get out of prison and come for what I took. 6 months ago, Curtis called me. He told me he was being released, told me he was coming for the diamonds, told me he would destroy everything I built if I did not give them to him. I laughed at him, Heath. I told him I would die before I let him hurt you or Brenda. And then, 2 weeks later, the doctors found the cancer. Stage 4. Inoperable. 6 months to live if I was lucky. I realized Curtis had won after all. He would outlive me, and then he would be free to come after you and Brenda, with no one to stop him. So, I prepared for war, even as I was dying. I have kept insurance all these years, Heath. Evidence of Curtis's crimes, recordings, documents, photographs. Things that could send him back to prison for the rest of his life. I recorded our conversations when I worked for him. I kept copies of shipping manifests, financial records, proof of his connections to the diamond smuggling network. I have evidence of murders he committed, of bribes he paid, of dozens of crimes beyond what he was convicted for. All of this evidence is in a safety deposit box at Columbia River Bank downtown. The key is in your hands now. I kept this evidence secret for 42 years because I was ashamed. I did not want you to know what I had been, what I had done. I wanted you to remember me as your Margaret, your wife, the woman who loved you more than anything in this world. But now you need the truth to protect yourself. Curtis will come for you. He will threaten you. He will try to destroy Margaret's memory and everything we built together. Use the evidence, Heath. Send Curtis back to prison where he belongs. Protect yourself and Brenda. And please, please forgive me for all the lies. I loved you. That was the only true thing in my life. Forever yours, Margaret. I read the letter 3 times, my hands trembling, tears streaming down my face. Margaret had known. She had prepared for this. Even as cancer ravaged her body, she had been protecting me, leaving me a weapon to fight back with. The brass key had a tag attached. Columbia River Bank, Box 247. I looked at the clock. 4 in the morning. The bank would not open for 5 more hours. I spent that time reading Margaret's letter over and over, memorizing every word, trying to reconcile the woman I had loved with the woman who had written this confession. At 9 a.m., I was waiting outside Dorothy Walsh's office when she arrived. She looked surprised to see me. Heath, I told you, I cannot take your case without payment. I need 1 more day, I said. Just 1 more day. I found something. Evidence that can clear my name and put Curtis away. What kind of evidence? I showed her Margaret's letter. Dorothy read it slowly, her expression shifting from skepticism to intense interest. If this evidence exists, she said carefully, and if it is as comprehensive as this letter claims, then yes, it could change everything. But Heath, using it, means exposing your wife's criminal past. Everyone will know what she was. Her reputation, her memory, everything will be destroyed. The church, your friends, your community, they will all know Margaret was a diamond smuggler. Your daughter will have to live with that knowledge too. I know, I said. But what choice do I have? If I do not use it, I go to prison for crimes I did not commit. Dorothy looked at me for a long moment. This is a choice only you can make. But if you are sure, I will help you. 1 more day. Pro bono. I believe you, Heath, and I think we can win this. We drove to Columbia River Bank together. The safety deposit box was exactly where Margaret said it would be. Inside was a fireproof envelope containing audio cassette tapes, dozens of them, all labeled with dates and names. There were photographs of Curtis, with known criminals, documents with his signature, ledgers detailing illegal transactions going back 30 years. There were sworn statements Margaret had prepared, recordings of phone conversations, proof of crimes Curtis had never been charged with. It was comprehensive, damning, and absolutely devastating. Dorothy and I spent the rest of the day going through everything, organizing it, preparing it for presentation to the police and the district attorney's office. "This is extraordinary," Dorothy kept saying. "This is more than enough to convict Curtis on multiple charges. This will send him away forever." "But it will destroy Margaret," I said. Dorothy looked at me with sympathy. "Margaret is already gone, Heath. What matters now is that you survive. She gave you this gift. She wanted you to use it. Honor her by saving yourself." That night, Dorothy and I met with Detective Holbrook and the district attorney. We laid out everything. Margaret's past, Curtis's crimes, the evidence, all of it. Detective Holbrook listened with increasing amazement. "Mr. Collins, why did you not tell us about this evidence before?" "Because I only found it yesterday," I said. "And because using it means destroying my wife's reputation. I wanted to protect her memory. But I realize now that Margaret wanted me to save myself more than she wanted to preserve her secrets." The district attorney, a sharp man named Philip Granger, examined the tapes and documents carefully. "This evidence is admissible," he said. "And if it checks out, it is more than enough to issue a warrant for Curtis Thompson's arrest on multiple charges. Diamond smuggling, racketeering, conspiracy, probably murder given some of what I am seeing here. He will go away for life." "What about Heath?" Dorothy asked. The DA looked at me. "Mr. Collins, based on this evidence and our investigation, we believe you were manipulated and set up by Curtis Thompson and your daughter. We are dropping all investigation into your involvement in the robbery. You are no longer a suspect. I apologize for what you have been put through." The relief was so overwhelming I nearly collapsed. Dorothy caught my arm, steadying me. "But there is one more thing we need from you," Detective Holbrook said. "We need you to help us catch Curtis." "How?" I asked. "We set a trap," she said. "We use you as bait." The plan was simple, but risky. I would contact Curtis through one of his known associates and offer to make a deal. I would claim to have found more diamonds, a second stash Margaret had hidden that nobody knew about. I would offer to split them with Curtis if he would clear my name and return my original 5 diamonds. "Curtis is greedy," Detective Holbrook said, "and he thinks you are weak and beaten down. He will believe you are desperate enough to deal with him. He will come." We spent 2 days setting it up. I wore a wire. Police positioned themselves throughout the parking garage of an abandoned shopping mall on the outskirts of Portland. Unmarked cars, hidden officers, recording equipment, everything ready. I stood in that empty garage at 8 p.m. on a cold October evening, my heart pounding, waiting. Curtis arrived exactly on time, driving the same car I had seen outside my house weeks before. He parked near me and got out. Brenda was with him, and one of his associates, a thick-necked man with dead eyes. My daughter would not look at me. "Heath," Curtis said, walking over with that same arrogant confidence. "I hear you have a proposition for me." I kept my voice steady, remembering the script Detective Holbrook and I had rehearsed. "I found more diamonds. Margaret hid them in a second location. I will split them with you if you give me back my original 5 and admit to the police that I was not involved in the robbery." Curtis laughed. "Why would I do that? I already have your 5 diamonds. Why would I give them back? Because there are 15 more where those came from?" I lied. "Bigger stones, better quality, worth at least $500,000. But I am the only one who knows where they are. If I go to prison, that secret dies with me." Curtis studied me, calculating. "You expect me to believe Margaret hid a second stash and never told me about it?" "Margaret did not trust you," I said. "She never trusted you. She told me everything before she died. About you, about the smuggling operation, about her past. She gave me access to everything as insurance." Curtis's eyes narrowed. "You are lying." "Am I?" I pulled out one of the photographs from Margaret's evidence, a picture of Curtis with a known crime boss from the 80s. I showed it to him. "I have dozens more like this. Recordings, documents, proof of every crime you ever committed. Margaret kept it all as leverage. She was smarter than you gave her credit for." Curtis's face darkened with rage. He stepped closer to me, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You stupid fool. You think you can blackmail me? You think you can threaten me with ancient history?" "I am not threatening you," I said. "I am offering you a deal. The diamonds for my freedom. We both walk away. You get the money, I get my life back. And if I refuse? Then I go to the police with all of Margaret's evidence. You spend the rest of your life in prison. Is that really what you want, Curtis? After all these years of waiting, of planning? You can have the money. You can disappear. But you have to let me go. Curtis glared at me for a long moment, then smiled slowly. You really are pathetic, Heath. You think I am afraid of old evidence? You think the police care about crimes from 30 years ago? I have connections. I have lawyers. I have money. Margaret's little insurance policy means nothing. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. It was Bernie's pawn shop, but more recent, from just a few days ago. This is what happens to people who cross me, Curtis said. I made sure Bernie would never testify against me. I made sure the police had no witnesses, no evidence, and I made sure you looked guilty. You set me up, I said, playing along, needing him to keep talking. The robbery, framing me, all of it. Of course I did, Curtis said, his voice full of contempt. You were the perfect patsy. Honest, naive, completely out of your depth. I manipulated your daughter, convinced her to betray you, used your love for your dead wife against you. It was almost too easy. And Brenda? I asked, looking at my daughter. Was she part of this from the beginning? Brenda finally met my eyes. Her expression was cold. Mom told me about the diamonds 6 months before she died. She told me about Uncle Curtis. She said I should protect you, keep you innocent. But Curtis found me first. He offered me money, freedom, a way out of my boring life. Why would I choose you, Dad? You are nothing. Just a washed-up plumber in a nowhere town. Curtis gave me a future. The words hit me like physical blows, but I kept my composure. I needed Curtis to keep incriminating himself. So what now? I asked. You have the diamonds. I have nothing. What do you want from me? I want you broken, Curtis said. I want you to suffer the way I suffered for 23 years in prison. Margaret stole from me, betrayed me, lived a happy life, while I rotted in a cell. I cannot hurt her anymore, but I can hurt you. I can make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison, alone and forgotten. That is what you get for marrying my sister, for giving her a reason to leave me behind. You are insane, I said quietly. No, Curtis said. I am vindicated. This is justice, Heath. You just do not understand it yet. He turned to walk away. I knew it was now or never. Curtis, I called out. There is one more thing you should know. He looked back, annoyed. Margaret did not tell me everything before she died, I said. She left me something better, a letter, and evidence. Enough to put you away for the rest of your life. And I gave it all to the police 3 days ago. Curtis's face went white. You are bluffing. Audio recordings of you discussing murders. Documents proving you bribed federal officials. Photographs of you with international criminals. Financial records showing money laundering. Margaret kept it all, Curtis. For 42 years, she kept it all. And now it is in the hands of the district attorney. You are lying, Curtis said, but his voice wavered. Ask Brenda, I said. Ask your niece if her mother was the kind of woman to take insurance. Ask her if Margaret was really as helpless as you thought. Detective Holbrook and a dozen officers emerged from the shadows, guns drawn. Curtis Thompson, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit robbery, assault, parole violations, and we have warrants for several additional charges related to diamond smuggling and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent. Curtis tried to run. His associate pulled a weapon. There was shouting, chaos, and then it was over. Curtis and his associate were on the ground, handcuffed, read their rights. Officers surrounded them. Brenda stood frozen, watching it all fall apart. Another officer approached her. Brenda Collins, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit robbery and fraud. Dad, Brenda said, her cold facade finally cracking. Dad, please, I am sorry. I did not think it would go this far. I did not think he would try to destroy you. But you still helped him, I said quietly. You still betrayed me. They took her away. Detective Holbrook approached me, removing the wire from beneath my shirt. You did well, Heath. We got everything we needed. Curtis confessed on tape to planning the robbery, to manipulating you, to violating his parole. Combined with Margaret's evidence, he will never see the outside of a prison again. And Brenda? She is facing 15 to 20 years, the detective said gently. She participated willingly in the conspiracy. The assistant who helped with the robbery took a plea deal and testified that Brenda provided them with information about Bernie's shop, about your routine, everything. She is as guilty as Curtis. I nodded, feeling empty. My daughter was going to prison. My wife's criminal past would become public record. Everything I had believed about my life for 42 years was revealed to be built on lies and secrets. But I was free. I had won. Over the following weeks, everything unfolded exactly as Detective Holbrook predicted. Curtis was convicted on 14 separate charges, including several counts of conspiracy to commit murder based on Margaret's evidence. He received life in prison without the possibility of parole. His associate received 30 years. Brenda went to trial, was convicted, and sentenced to 18 years in a federal prison. Bernie made a slow but steady recovery. He regained most of his memory and testified about Curtis's threats and the robbery. He was grateful to me for helping catch the men who had hurt him. We became friends, of a sort, bonded by our shared trauma. The local newspaper ran a follow-up story. Retired plumber helps police catch diamond smuggling ring. My reputation was not just restored, it was elevated. People in town started treating me like a hero. The same neighbors who had avoided me now stopped to shake my hand. My plumbing business received more calls than I could handle. The church gave me a standing ovation when I returned for Sunday service. But none of it brought Margaret back. None of it erased the knowledge of who she had really been. I donated the 5 diamonds to the American Cancer Society in Margaret's name. They were valued at $200,000, enough to fund years of research. The charity sent me a letter thanking me for the contribution, saying it would help save lives. I like to think Margaret would have approved. I visited Brenda once in prison. She cried, apologized, begged for forgiveness. I told her I still loved her, that she was still my daughter, but that I could not excuse what she had done. I told her I hoped she would find redemption, that she would use her time in prison to become the person she was meant to be. I told her that when she got out, if she wanted a relationship with me, I would be willing to try. But the trust was broken, and it would take years to rebuild, if it ever could be. She nodded, understanding. I left the prison and have not been back since. Dorothy Walsh never charged me for her services. She said helping an innocent man go free was reward enough. We still have coffee occasionally, talking about books and life and the strange ways the world works. I repaired Margaret's locket. Bernie did the restoration work himself, refusing payment. The hidden compartment was sealed shut, empty now. I keep the necklace on my dresser, and sometimes, in the quiet evenings, I hold it and remember the woman I loved. Not the perfect woman I thought she was, but the complicated, flawed human woman she actually was. The woman who made terrible choices in her youth but spent 42 years trying to be better. The woman who loved me imperfectly but genuinely. The woman who, in the end, gave me the tools to save myself, even if it meant destroying her own reputation. I have learned that people are complicated. That love can coexist with lies. That family bonds can be broken by greed and selfishness, but that chosen family, friends, and community can be stronger than blood. I have learned that trust is earned through honesty, not secrets. That protecting people with truth is better than protecting them with lies. I have learned that the people who stand by you in crisis show their true character. Frank, Bernie, Dorothy, even Detective Holbrook. They were there when I needed them most. They gave me a second chance at life. Margaret's memory is complicated now. Some people in town remember her as a criminal. Others remember her as the kind elementary school teacher who loved her students. Both versions are true. She was both things at once, and I have made my peace with that. I sit on my porch on warm evenings, looking out at the street where I have lived for 42 years, and I feel grateful. Grateful to be free. Grateful to have survived. Grateful for the truth, even though it hurt. Life is messy and complicated, and often unfair. But it goes on, and there is grace in that continuation. There is grace in forgiveness, in second chances, in the slow work of rebuilding trust and hope. I am 68 years old, and I have lived through more pain and betrayal than I ever imagined possible. But I have also lived through love, genuine if imperfect, and I have survived to tell this story. That, I suppose, is enough. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever discovered a secret about someone you loved? Something that changed how you saw them completely? How did you handle it? Did you find a way to forgive them, or did the betrayal break the relationship forever? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, if it made you think about trust and family, and the complicated nature of love, please consider hitting the like button. It helps others find these stories, and reminds me that sharing my experience matters. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about real-life challenges, and the ways people overcome them, please subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with someone who has struggled with family betrayal or discovered difficult truths about the people they loved. Sometimes, knowing we are not alone in our pain makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for caring, for taking the time to understand what I went through. I hope you find peace in your own life, whatever struggles you are facing. I hope you find the strength to face difficult truths and the grace to forgive when you can. Take care of yourselves, and remember that even in the darkest moments, there is always a path forward. You just have to keep walking.